Hello, welcome once again to one of my digitizing tutorials for the Bernina software, Designer Plus. This is version 6. Today I'm going to be looking at Applique. Now I will be getting to the fish that I promised I would turn into an applique as well, but right now I want to go through all the applique tools because there are quite a few people out there who are a bit confused about which applique tool to use, what you can do with them and how to use them. So I'm going to start with Auto Applique. Now, if you've just got a simple outline of a shape that you want to turn into an applique, this is or a simple shape you want to turn into an applique, this is the tool to use. It's used similar to the closed object tool in that you just create your shape and the software automatically generates your applique stitches, that is your placement line, cutting line, etc., and the final stitching on the top, the cover stitch. So I'm going to quickly give you a demonstration of that. So select your tool and then you can set up how you want your applique to look before you start if you wish. So you can go up to the object properties here, left click on that, and there is an applique tab. Click on that to open up the applique window. Now you've got lots of options here. The tack down will depend whether you have chosen blanket or satin stitch. If you choose satin stitch, you can have the option of using a tack down. The tack down is a zigzag stitch to anchor down the fabric. If you choose blanket stitch, obviously a tack down would be ugly. It would actually show through the blanket stitch, and so you don't want it, and so they've blanked it out when you've got blanket stitch chosen over here for your cover stitch. I'm going to leave blanket stitch on for a moment just to show you that option, and so obviously I want to have the cover stitch of the blanket stitch at the end. And I've chosen a width of 2 and a spacing of 3. You can alter those to suit yourself depending on the size of the applique and the look you want, the finished look you want. Down here we have the style of applique. So you can choose whether you want a placement line and a cutting line or both. I like to have both. The placement line will embroider an outline on your base fabric, showing you where your applique is going to be. Then you can lay your applique fabric over that placement line and stitch a cutting line, which basically restitches the placement line, and that allows you to cut right up close. It's a straight stitch line, allows you to cut the fabric right up close. Now depending on your fabric, it may be a fabric that frays a lot, so you have to be careful how you cut there. I would say with blanket stitch, this is something you need to consider when you're choosing your cover stitch. I would say with blanket stitch you need a nice stable fabric, and some people even iron on Fix on the back of it, and with a mini iron it in place before they stitch as well, just to ensure it doesn't fray away at the edges. I like both, as I said, the placement line and the cutting line. Now you can choose a fabric here in the fabric box if you want to give yourself some look of what the finished applique is going to look like. I'm just going to randomly choose one here. Let's choose the yellow one down there. That'll do. It's a barley print, and go OK. And so that fabric will show up here. If you just want to choose a solid cut, there are some solid colour fabrics in there as well, if you just want to put a colour in there to indicate where the fabric is for your own reference. Then we've got the offset. Now with blanket stitch it defaults to the inside. This is to make sure that the straight edge of the blanket stitch is on the edge of the fabric, and what I call the teeth of the blanket stitch are going to be actually on the fabric. If you had it centered, that wouldn't be the case. I'll show you that in a minute by changing this, but we'll leave it at the inside for the moment. If you choose satin stitch up here, it defaults to be centered. This is the line you digitize when you're clicking around, is the line it's centered over. Likewise, the line you digitized with when you do your blanket stitch, the blanket stitch is going to go to the inside. Now occasionally you want an effect to go to the outside. We can look at that in a minute too, but we'll just leave that. So I'm going to apply those settings and go OK. So that's going to, I've set it up before I start so that as soon as I create my shape it will use those properties. Now then it's just a matter of creating your shape. You have prompts down the bottom here, enter point 1 on boundary 1, and just follow those prompts. So you can start with the point 1 and it's now asking to enter point 2. So point 2 may be a right click or a left click. You can just choose what you want to do. I'm just doing a random shape here. When you get your shape back to nearly the beginning, you can, just like a closed object that you're digitizing, you can press your enter button and that will close the object. Now you can go ahead and enter point 1 on boundary 2, that is create another object if you like, but if you're just creating the one, press your enter again, which gives you the prompt now to enter an entry point. Now I enter my entry points exactly where I started, so that will be this point here, I think, from memory. So I left click there once and left click again, and I have got my blanket stitch running around there. Let's just zoom in so you can see that more clearly. And my start and finish are where I entered and exited. So it's all very neat. So and if we look over at the colour film, we have our placement line, which will sew out first. The cutting line sews out next, so I can then trim the fabric away to the cutting line, and then the blanket stitch will stitch on top.